They're excited members of the Indian diaspora after meeting Prime Minister. His engagements have just begun in Poland, and we'll be getting you minute-to-minute updates as they come. His next important engagement would be significant from the civilizational ties between India and Poland. We'll get you the details in just a bit. But for now, let me welcome two eminent guests to take forward the conversation, understand Prime Minister's importance of Prime Minister's visit to Poland. Joining me is Professor Gulshan Sachdeva from School of International Studies, JNU. And my second guest for the evening is Ambassador Mohan Kumar, a former senior diplomat. Good evening and welcome to both of you. Professor Sachdeva, if I can come to you first, 70 years of diplomatic relations between India and Poland. What signifies, characterizes this partnership and therefore the importance of Prime Minister Modi's visit?
Well, this visit obviously is very, very important and significant because an Indian Prime Minister is visiting a country after 45 years, as you have mentioned. And we are also celebrating 70 years of our diplomatic ties with that country. And whenever Prime Minister visits any country, it is important. But you know, the context is that country like Poland, which is becoming more and more important within the European Union. It's a big country, you know, close to 40 million population. It's, you know, fifth largest country within EU and sixth largest economy within the European Union. And it's not just only today Poland is important for us. You know, even during the Soviet period, when now we call it Central Europe, then we used to call it Eastern Europe. And all the Eastern European countries, they were also very close to us. And in fact, if you look at, you know, and the Soviet Union used to be our #1 trading partner. And the second export market within this region was Poland. And of course, we also had very close, you know, all the educational, cultural and the defense ties with Poland. So there is a long history of goodwill and relationship. And even if you look at, you know, the other education and cultural ties, I mean, in the Warsaw University, which I just visited a couple of weeks ago, I mean, you have Indology department, you know, close to 100 years ago. It's still there. I mean, for the 100 years, they have been, you know, studying Indology. And then if you go to a place like Krakow, at the Jagiellonian University, I mean, I think from 1891, they have been studying Sanskrit. There is a Sanskrit chair since then. So those kind of linkages we had. And we also had, you know, very close strategic and political ties even during the Soviet period. And then later on, now all these countries have become member of the European Union. Since we also have now strategic partnership with the European Union, so you know, again we are looking these countries in a very different context, and we are working with them. And Prime Minister, you know, so far, I mean, if you look at India's relations with Europe in the last 10-15 years, they have become very close. So right. Prime Minister has actually visited, you know, so many countries, and he visited many times many other parts of Europe. But you know, to my knowledge, I think this is the first Prime Ministerial visit to this part of Europe, which is again very, very important. Now it's becoming strategically much more important because now, after the Ukraine war, Poland has become the strategic center from where all kind of Western, you know, the NATO and other kind of, you know, operations and all kind of support is going from Poland to Ukraine.
Right. Let's also get a perspective from Ambassador Mohan Kumar on that. Ambassador Kumar, Indian Prime Minister's visit to Poland in 45 years. Why now, and why is it significant according to you?
Thank you very much for having me. I think that's a good question. Why now? I think it's, if you ask me, I think it's long overdue. So I would say better late than never. Secondly, I think as Professor Gulshan Sachdeva was hinting in his remarks, I think the center of gravity in European Union is shifting. It used to be said that nothing would happen in the European Union without the Franco-German motor working in harmony. But I think slowly the center of gravity in Europe is shifting from Berlin and Paris to Warsaw and to other countries. Poland, to my mind, will be the hub and the center from which European defense and security policy will be decided henceforth. Bear in mind that Poland has excellent ties with the United States, so transatlantic relations between European Union and United States will be determined more in Warsaw than in Berlin or Paris, let's say 10, 15 years from now. Secondly, Poland is one of the few countries which has spent 4% of its GDP on defense. It is committed both to NATO and to European Union strategy vis-a-vis Ukraine. And Poland took an exceptionally clear position when the entire European Union was divided. It's Poland which took a very clear position when Russia invaded Ukraine. So for a variety of reasons, I cannot imagine that a Prime Minister has not gone to Poland. I'm extremely happy that the Prime Minister chose to go to Poland. As I said, better late than never. So European Union, if we wanted to be a separate pole in a multipolar world, I cannot imagine European Union being a whole without Poland playing its full part. So frankly, truth be told, it's an area we had neglected somewhat in the past, and I'm extremely happy that we are making amends.
Right. Professor Sachdeva, the manner in which Ambassador Kumar mentioned that the axis of influence is also shifting in Europe, the point that you also mentioned. In that sense, is India also diversifying the manner in which it engages with Europe, with European Union?
No, we have anyway diversifying, but I think as Ambassador also mentioned, somehow in this part, in Central and Eastern Europe, and particularly in Central Europe, we had very strong ties with them. And in the 90s, many of those things, earlier linkages were broken. Even when after, when they became member of the European Union, of course, the relations have been close, we have been working with them, but the kind of focus which was required, perhaps, we need to, now perhaps we are making up, as mentioned. And you can see, we have strategic partnership now with the European Union, with France, with Germany, and also with Greece and Italy and others, but not a single strategic partnership in this part of the world, which is very important. Right. Because it's not just only a big country, but you look at the way decisions are taken within the European Union. Now they have, from Poland, because it's a big country, they have more than 50 MEPs in the European Parliament, and the way, the weight is there within the European institutions. And even the current Prime Minister, Donald Tusk, he was European Council President just before that. Yes. He is a very old, very respected politician within Poland and also in Europe, because he started his career, as a Solidarity member, and then, of course, he had been part of many political groupings, because, in the Poland in the initial years, they had a lot of, disturbance, I would say, not very stable governments for quite some time. And many governments came, many new formations came, but now there is a stability political. And when you also must remember that Poland is also one country, since 1995, this is one of the fastest growing economy within Europe. Without any, and they are not part of the, still not part of the Eurozone, still they are doing pretty well. And they do have now influence within the European Union. Yes, in the last 8 years, when you had, Law and Justice Party government, then they had certain problems with the European Union. But now, with this new government, I think the relations are also very excellent. And as the point was also, which was hinted by Ambassador Mohan Kumar, when after 2014 itself, when the Crimea happened, Poland and the Baltic countries, they were in the forefront of actually raising concerns. And in fact, many countries within Western Europe, they were saying, they are unnecessarily raising fears about Russia. But now when things actually happened, that, after 2022, then in fact, whatever things they were saying about energy dependence on Russia, yes, about the fear of Russian expansionism, etc., I think the more and more now Europeans are listening to what Polish and the other Eastern European countries are saying. At the same time, because Poland was next to Ukraine, millions of refugees first came to Poland, and most of them are still just working there, just like as a Polish citizen.
Many Indian students who were being evacuated were also
Yeah,
evacuated
Poland,
through
yeah.
these
But now, in fact, when the major chunk, when
Yes.
in fact, more than million or so, in fact, refugees came to Poland, and even before that, actually, they were coming to work in Poland because there was better opportunities to work there for short-term kind of seasonal employment. But now many of them are just there, and they are being treated more or less like local citizens. So it means they are playing much more bigger role in the European Union, and I think this is a time we are also, since we also are very close, they do not have any kind of we don't have any problems with Poland. Politically we have been very close, but somehow, and in the process, what has also happened, one also must see in the last 10, 15 years, in fact, China expanded quite significantly in this part of the world. So, I think strategically, politically, historically, it makes more sense now that actually we start working very closely with some of these countries. And Poland is a big country, and also we are working with other countries as well.
Right. Ambassador Kumar, with reference to the Russia-Ukraine conflict that you also mentioned in your intervention, at a time when the shadow of the conflict looms large over the entire region, and if we look at Prime Minister's visit to the region in its entirety, Poland and then Ukraine, what significance does it entail if we see the big picture?
Oh, the significance is huge. In fact, I'm particularly happy that the Indian Prime Minister will have a chance to talk to his Polish interlocutors before he meets President Zelensky. It's very important to get a Polish perspective. Bear in mind that Poland was under Soviet occupation and then domination, if you like, for a long time. They understand Russia, and I dare say you will have difficulty finding a peaceful resolution in Ukraine unless Poland gets on board. So it's extremely important that the Indian Prime Minister gets a sense of where Poland stands on the conflict in Ukraine. And that is very, very important for him, so that when he does share perspective, the Indian Prime Minister has already said that he will want to share perspectives on how to bring peace to Ukraine in his conversation with Zelensky, and that's a very natural thing to do. We've been, after all, plugging for dialogue and diplomacy right from the beginning. So it'll be important for India to get a sense of where Poland stands. In fact, I don't believe even Germany, France, and other countries can fashion a proposal in the European Union without getting Poland on board. Poland will play an extremely important role whenever there is a diplomatic solution in sight in Ukraine. So from that perspective, I see the Indian Prime Minister's visit to Poland extremely important, especially, as you say, since the visit is preceding his own visit to Ukraine, where he will meet with President Zelensky. All in all, I think it is the strategic nature of this visit that interests me. Trade is $6 billion. We have invested $3 billion. All those things will happen. And I think Professor Gulshan Sachdeva is absolutely right. Poland is part of the Belt and Road Initiative of China. China has had a head start, and Poland has been doing a bit of balancing between ties with United States, ties with China, ties with Russia. In that sense as well, Poland will be keen to diversify risk and to develop ties with India. I believe there is an opportunity there. There's a window of opportunity that India must exploit, because I don't think, given the kind of relationship that US and China may have in the future, Poland will not want to become collateral. They would not want to suffer collateral damage. So there will be a Polish inclination, if you like, also look at the Indian market, also look at how ties with India can be developed. I think India must make use of this opportunity. So all in all, I think the visit could not have come at a better time. It could have come earlier, in my view, but as I said, better late than never.
Ambassador Kumar, also what makes this visit dramatic, if I may use that word, is that just a month ago, Prime Minister was engaging with the leadership of Russia. the other side of the conflict. And India happens to be one of the only few countries, and Prime Minister Modi is one of the few leaders who's able to engage both sides of the adversaries in this conflict. In that sense, how do the expectations rise even further? That could India play a more significant role as some kind of a mediator into the conflict, which seems to be entering a new phase of escalation as we speak?
So 2 points really. I think one should be clear-headed. This conflict in Ukraine is extremely complex. Everybody knows that. There's a lot of history to it. The first point I would make is that India's conversation, or Indian Prime Minister's conversation with the Polish President and with others, as you rightly said, with Putin before that, is the process of multi-alignment at work. This is foreign policy where we believe we must engage with everybody. It's been described variously, but I prefer to call it multi-alignment rather than non-alignment. And this is multi-alignment at work. On your second point about whether a prospect for India to mediate, my diplomatic sense tells me that neither the timing nor India's own clout and influence is not there at this point. And I would hesitate to call India's actions as constituting mediation. What I do see India doing is having conversations with the parties to the conflict, taking messages from one to the other, bringing its own weight to bear on the conflict by telling them repeatedly that no solution can be found on the battlefield, you must negotiate. So all those things the Indian Prime Minister can do. But I do not want to use the word mediation. I genuinely think we don't have the agency to do it. And as Professor Sachdeva said, the timing is not right because both countries appear to be going at each other. There is an intensification of the conflict both in Donbass and in a place called Kursk. Both countries have not reached the point of exhaustion. It's only when both parties reach the point of military exhaustion can diplomats move in and the possibility of mediation can be talked about. So for these reasons, I see the Prime Minister being a messenger of peace. I do not see him as a mediator.
Right. Professor Gulsad Sachdeva, your thoughts on the manner in which more meaning is added to Prime Minister's visit to both Poland and later Ukraine, given the climate of conflict that is shadowing the entire region?
Well, you know, now obviously, I mean, even if when Prime Minister is visiting Poland, this is a bilateral visit.
Yes.
But still, I think it's very much linked to his visit to Ukraine, because you cannot really go to Ukraine unless you go to Poland and travel by rail to Ukraine. So obviously, these two are linked.
It'll be interesting for also our viewers to know that it's difficult to have a direct flight to Ukraine.
No, you cannot have direct flight because the airspace is basically closed. So all world leaders, in fact, all G7 leaders except I think the Japanese Prime Minister or the leaders from the European Union when Ursula von der Leyen was there, or the German Chancellor was there, or all the leaders, or the French President, all of them were went by train. And all diplomatic things are happening by train because the airspace is closed. And they have, I think established very secure, rail track. It takes almost I think overnight 10, 11 hour journey from Polish border from Poland to Kyiv. So it means these two things are linked. And as Ambassador was mentioning, here it's a complex issue, and the big players are involved here. So you have it's not just only about Poland and Ukraine or Russia, Ukraine. You also have United States. You also have all the European Union, all the member states of the EU. You also have NATO. And there has been, since 2014, things have been going on. And from 2022, there is a full-scale war. And there has also been many peace efforts. Now, the Chinese have their own plan. We had recently a meeting in Switzerland. So a lot of things are happening. So far, we have not come out with any peace plan or something. And, you know, because only thing we have basically talked in a sense in abstract that, you know, like this is not an era of war and it should be resolved diplomatically, militarily, there cannot be any solution. These things are fine. But it means, you know, we are, and, you know, and I don't even see that, you know, most of the time, at least from the sources, you can see that we have been asked to be mediating or something in this kind of conflict so far. And in fact, you know, I would say that both, you know, since major players are Americans and Russians, and, you know, they have the capacities to talk to each other. I mean, they were talking even during the Cold War. So there are, you know, very complex nature of this particular conflict, what we had. And now with the new escalation and, you know, Ukrainian forces going and occupying some Russian territory, so they are perhaps at some point they would be preparing for some kind of negotiation with the position of strength that we have certain territory with them. We do not know because things are evolving and it has been continued to evolve in the months to come. And there is elections which are going to take place in the United States. Thing will change after that. Yes. So, you know, so it's not that one should really expect too much that India is going to resolve this issue or anyone can resolve, because this is a very, very complex issue where we are. But only thing, since India is an important player, India would like to show to the world that India is also has certain capacity, certain position, certain responsibility. Because we are also very close partners with Russia, and also with the United States and also with the European Union, and all of them, they do trust India. Right. So in that sense, maybe if we can bring certain sense, we can understand, or we are also trying to understand both the points of view from both sides. So in that sense, I think the visit, but, you know, and we can also contribute something, say for example, you know, immediate there is requirement of certain humanitarian assistance, maybe certain reconstruction activities. India has a, you know, history of providing those kind of assistance to many countries.
We'll talk about that as we continue our conversation. We're heading for a short break here. Stay tuned to the special presentation on DD India.